We told Trav recently, we said, hey, did you know? And he didn't know this. We told him, we said, did you know you can have sex and not have a kid? And he was like, what? He was like, wait, what?
Sounds lame.
Yeah, we told him, yeah, you can do it. And he was like, oh, I was told.
I'm 4 for 4, boys. That's 100% hit rate. You think I want to ruin that? Are you guys ready for William Shatner singing Black Hole Sun? Okay, ready?
I guess we're gonna have to be.
Yep. Black Hole Sun, won't you come and wash away the rain? Black Hole Sun, won't you come? Won't you come? Is that decent?
I wish I could tell you it was good. It's
not.
Fuck. I want to tell you it was good because you've done some good things.
It didn't sound like William Shatner is the problem. Yeah.
It sounded more like Pet Detective.
I appreciate you guys because I could have been out in the wild thinking that's a good Shatner, and it's not. So I appreciate that.
What did I just walk into?
A cold open, player. A cold open.
Sights and sounds and edges found. You will now get down with the Underground. Posted up on the OTC Fantasy YouTube channel. I am Trav, hosting and West Coastin'. With me, of course, Jax Falcone. How are you, buddy? We got something really fun to talk about tonight.
Yeah, I'm doing really good, buddy. This is a lot of fun. I mean, yeah, I won't bury the lead. I'll let you go ahead and do it. So I'll keep to myself. But yeah, we're pretty excited.
We are very excited. Kuvetakis with the fresh camera, no longer low-res Joe. What's crack-a-lackin' high-res Joe?
Now that we have the dopest website on the internet, I figured I could afford a new camera.
Oh yeah,
said,
you got all that website money burning a hole in your pocket. I love that.
You said we're posted up on the YouTube channel. You know where else we're posted up? On OTCFFB.com.
Yes, we are.
And I gotta say, guys, we were debating some URLs, and that's the one we landed on. I'm glad we did because that rolled off the tongue very nicely. I enjoyed saying that. I haven't really said it out loud much. We've been texting, we've been talking, but it feels good. It feels really good. So I don't know. Aside from that, nothing.
Nothing. Nothing big happened this week. No, we are so excited to bring that to the people. We launched it earlier this week. And OTCFFB.com is where you can find all of our content. And it feels great to say that. You're going to hear it at the beginning of every show from now on because it's amazing. Not only is there content there, we've got our shows on there. We've got articles on there. You can find our rankings on there. Both Rookie and Dynasty are up right now. We also have some of the sickest tools for fantasy football gamers ever. Now, tailored definitely to Dynasty, but of course, I think they can be used for a lot of other formats as well. There's tools for making trades in your leagues. There's a tool to make bulk trades across leagues. You've probably heard Jax talk about that on shows where he'd like to offer this player for a third across every league he's in. You can do that with our site. You can manage your roster, your lineups, your waivers. I was drafting a rookie draft in our site today, guys. It was awesome. Right beside my rankings, right beside all of our other content, a bunch more other stuff, a little bit of stats and stuff in there as well, guys. It feels great. It's a big milestone for us. Anybody who's followed us for a long time knows that we have been down some roads, and this is something that we've wanted for a while, and we're there. Shout out to Keegan as well, whose site Dynasty Helper joined the OTC family, and that's the core of the tools is Keegan's site Dynasty Helper, and he has been nothing but an amazing partner for us in this, so I got to give him a shout out. And boys, I've spoken enough. I want to give you guys the floor to talk about your experience with the site since we launched it and the excitement around it.
I was going to say, the bulk trade idea that I've had for a long time was able to come to fruition. However, we weren't able to get the breathalyzer, the sleeper breathalyzer past legal on this one. So we did lose a couple of tools, but we're going to come out with some more. I'm obviously joking about the breathalyzer, although I think there's a few people who are like, listen, I would fucking pay for that and sign up for it. Just put a lock on that thing when I'm too drunk. But no, it's awesome, man. It's a great tool. For me, being a Dynasty guy and a Dynasty commissioner, look, if you're listening to this show, you likely play in Dynasty. This tool is essential because dispersal drafts. Like Keegan showed me how to do a dispersal in that. I'm like, dude, it's just boop, boop, boop. It just, you go in there, you put the teams that you want in the dispersal, all the players are in there. You just clickety clack the ones you want. Like, it's the best. And it literally just feeds it right back. Like, you can draft from the tool. It feeds it right back onto your sleeper rosters. It is unbelievable. It puts a little notification in the sleeper chat that so-and-so is drafted first, second, third. It's absolutely incredible. The bulk trade obviously is good. Just so many things. Yeah, you really got to go play with it. Get in there and go check it out at OTC FFB to believe it. You really have to see it to believe it. It's really, really awesome. We really think that not only that, but we're going to be building on it from there. And I'd be remiss. I got to say one more thing, and then you can take it, Joe. We also came out the UN.
Yes.
Look at me. The OTC wide receiver model. You can cut that if you want. We just came out hey, it is what it is.
You on the internet for it.
Hey, it does have lineage. It does have lineage.
It absolutely does. The roots.
It has lineage. It has roots. Yeah. We have roots, man, and that's what it is. So, but the OTC wide receiver model just dropped, and there's so many people that, and I'm not going to thank everybody. So please, if I forget someone, please go behind me and make sure.
I will. Yeah.
But like, Fuchs and Dev and Dukes, like Dukes put in a lot of hard work, and I want to say a specific and special shout out to my man Dukes. I know a lot of you guys have heard me say it, but like, I went back to 2019 when he and I both did basically join the Undroppables at its, when it sort of first started. People thought I founded it because I was right there when it happened. But who was right there with me was Dukes, and he's been right with me the whole way. And he's been, by my side, but everybody's side. He's just such a loyal, amazing, awesome person. I'm so grateful. And I just felt like I needed to say something for my boy.
I love it.
I'll tack on Marcus Gailey and Mike, aka Grindberg.
Yep.
Were also huge contributors.
Yes, they were.
Shout out to them. Could not have happened without them. The score is awesome. It's surprising. You might see a little bit of that come out tonight. We've kind of been hinting at some of these scores in what is a weird class. I think it's kind of more important than ever to have that tool at your disposal and in the toolkit. And since we're shilling, we'll just keep shilling.
Yeah.
If you become a member, if you sign up for a subscription at otcffb.com,
the yearly,
the annual subscription, we are going to throw in the model for free. For the people that bought the model before we launched the site, they got a discount on their subscription as well. So anyways, we're offering more than we ever have. I'm really excited to do it because, in addition to our spoken content, we have like a lot more to do and a lot more to say. Keegan, God bless his heart, basically thought of just about everything you could ever hope for in a dynasty, for a dynasty league manager, player, commissioner. But, the cool thing is, as you were alluding to, Trav, that stuff works in redraft leagues too, right?
Yep.
The unique thing about our tool is when you go and look at your leagues and your teams and try and make trades in those leagues, the tool knows what the format is. It knows your roster size. It knows the league settings. So unlike any other trade calculator out there that I know of, this one adjusts for your specific league value-wise, which is a differentiator unlike anything else I've ever seen. So it's about as awesome as it gets. If you're not sold already, don't worry. We're going to find other ways to sell you.
Yeah. And I would say one other thing too, it's free to sign up. It's free to get in there and put your, to have an account with your username for Sleeper and for it to evaluate all your leagues and for it to do the things that it does. Yeah, there's a small fee if you want to do everything, and that's probably what you're going to want to do once you realize what it is. So, yeah, there's a little bit of pay stuff there, but it's really free to get in there and definitely have a lot of awesome function right off the top. So, there's definitely, it's just incredible. I can't even,
So good, man. And
get in there and click around.
That's what we're saying. Yeah, go have fun. Go ham.
If you click around and you don't subscribe, that's fine. I mean, you're fine. You're stupid. You're an idiot. You have more than one dynasty league.
This is a portfolio.
Insane not to do this. And also, if you want to be in more dynasty leagues, there's no better tool that has ever existed. But go ahead, just go on there and click around. If you don't like it,
Hey, Joe, just to point out, this is a Dynasty players a tool, because it was literally Keegan was like, I wish I could. And he thought of all the things that we've already said. Like, he heard us say, like, everything. He's like, I can do that. Well, I'll just do it. And then, so there was no constraints. There was never like, yeah, but I'm not sure we want. No, it was just every idea that we thought or he thought was a great idea is there, and more to come, because every idea we have, even things down to like, we just fixed the co-manager thing. So if you're a co-manager, it also shows those leagues. Like, it is a really slick tool.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say that we are very accessible. So if there's ever something that you've got feedback, you want to see something even cooler that you think it could do, bring it on, boys.
Yeah, totally, Jax. That we actually do have a send feedback place on the site. So if you press the little icon of your profile, you'll see the little drop down there. You can install it as an app on your phone, which for a heavy mobile user, it is a seamless experience. And then within that same menu, you can send feedback. We want to hear what you think about the site. We want to hear if you think of new cool features or things we could add to it. We want to hear all of it. So please let us know, because we want it to be a site for the people. And Jax, you mentioned the free account gives you a certain amount of different moves that you can make and whatnot, but we've actually intentionally kept the avenue for entry affordable and reasonable for you. We want you in here playing with this because we're enjoying it, and we just want to see that people are enjoying it the way that we are, and get people in the OTC ecosystem.
And by the way, I had a friend of mine I sent it to, and I was like, hey, check this out, And he goes, how is it so cool and it's not an app, it's just on my phone? Like, that's the other thing too, it's so slick. Like, that's the feedback we get every single time, is like, this thing is way more slick. And so, like, I'm not going to mention some of the other competitors, but I will say that if you're just looking for values, like trade values or rankings that are like crowdsourced or value sourced, ADPs, like, our ADP is better than Sleeper's ADP, because Sleeper doesn't even do as good a job managing their ADP. Their ADP is broken, but there actually is ADP that we're sourcing from it that we're sharing with you. So you actually have the real ADP on our site. That's pretty fucking cool.
And you can also look at, KTC and our rankings and kind of compare the two, toggle between them as you're drafting, and make your draft picks and your trades from our site. Pretty cool. All right, should we do a show now? That was a long.
I was just gonna
commercial. All right, guys, see you next week.
We're back.
See you next week.
No doubt. Yeah,
woo, I'm gonna go get a cigarette. I'll be right back, guys.
No doubt. We might as well, but we are going to be talking about rookie rankings tonight. As you can tell, we could sit here and talk about the site for the entire show. We're not going to do that. You're going to hear it more and more throughout the shows, throughout the other stuff on the YouTube channel, the articles. I got a couple articles up there, boys, so please go check that out. And we're going to talk about rookie rankings, but like you guys mentioned, we'll be back right after this. And we are back on Dynasty Underground. You heard us waxing about our new website, otcffb.com, and now it is time to get into what you came for, the content. We are talking about our rookie rankings. We're a few days out from the draft finishing, guys, and we could have gone a bunch of different ways with this show. We had a hard time figuring out what we wanted to talk about, but rookie rankings seemed great because we had them nice and dialed in. You can find them at otcffb.com. Great website. Check it out. And it leads us in different directions, right? I think the rookie rankings allows us to branch off very nicely. So I'm stoked to talk about it with you guys. And the first thing we're going to talk about is the long-standing number 101, Jeremiah Love. He is number one with a bullet. I was making some cases prior to the draft that I could see a case for Fernando Mendoza at the 101. I think I'm coming off of that a little bit, and Fernando is my firm 102. We're going to talk about it. Jeremiah Love at 101, signed, sealed, and delivered, right, boys?
Yeah, next.
Yeah, and I actually think that there's there's been a lot of complaining about the landing spot. I don't really have a problem with it. Like, it's not amazing, but it's also not bad. Like, for a bad team, it's a great landing spot. Like, if he's going to land on a bad team, that's the perfect bad team to land on, because they're constantly giving up points with ease, like butter, and then they're just having to run a ton of offensive plays. They're not afraid to throw the football. They've got weapons. Like, I don't know. They're gonna be frisky, and he's gonna be the one man show. I heard someone say like, "Oh yeah, but Algier's there." I'm like, "What? You're afraid of like what? Are you, like I've heard this, you know." So I was like, definitely don't think that way. You have to just when you're drafting like if you put Jeremiah Love in a bucket with all of the prospects that sort of he's very similar to, whether it's draft capital, college production, athleticism, size, etc. It's a can't miss list. There's no misses. There's none. The only one is Trent Richardson or whatever, and that's like a fable. That's a Kaiser Sose. It didn't even really happen. Like he had 1,000 yards in his first year. Like it's just a crazy coincidence. Like he shouldn't have missed either. So the fact of the matter is that he's not gonna miss. It's just a for sure thing. And the only thing I'll tell you is there may be a buyback when early in the season, just like every other stud running back, JT on down the line, when he doesn't come out of the gate and Tyler Algier has 15 carries and he has 8 in week 1. Oh, I can't wait to buy back in. That's the moment, but he's fine.
Algier almost did that to Bijan. There was a little bit early in that, when Algier's getting 15 touches a game. I think that's a good take. But yeah, any team taking a running back that high is going to run the hell out of him and focus their offense around him. So I wasn't necessarily worried. Yeah.
Yep. He's awesome.
So 102 is where the conversation starts, boys. And I noticed looking at the site that we differ in this. And I've got Fernando Mendoza at my 102. I think Jax, you have him at 4. Joe, you have him at 5, or vice versa. And I got to make a little case here.
I've got him at 4.
Yeah.
I got to make a little case here because what do you guys think? Actually, Chase on the socials commented on one of my posts saying that Fernando Mendoza should be the 102. And he said, what do you think the ceiling finish for him is in his best season, right? And he asked if it was quarterback 5. And I said, that's maybe at the ceiling of his range of outcomes, definitely ceiling. I don't see inside, I don't see top 3 necessarily. But I also said that for somebody like myself who has Mendoza at the 102, I think you almost have to believe that that's his type of upside, right? Because if you think that the best that he can do is quarterback 12, I think you're better off taking those wide receivers because you don't believe enough in Mendoza. I don't necessarily think he's going to be a consistent quarterback 5, but I do think consistent starts as a quarterback on Superflex teams has a lot of value, and that can hold value for a fair amount of time. And I think if some of these wide receiver landing spots were more concrete, stoked about them, I think maybe I would be thinking different. But for me, the positional value of the quarterback has to reign true here. And Mendoza is locked in his own tier as my 102.
So my issue is upside. I want nothing more than Mendoza to be a top 5 fantasy QB, but dudes that don't run have a much more limited path to constantly accessing that upside. There are certainly, it's in the range, it's in the range of outcomes where he's the QB1 one year, right? If he just goes off, but without the rushing floor, I don't think he has access to that upside. Listen, if I'm a QB needy team at 102, I don't care what my ranking is. I'm going to take Mendoza, or I'm going to try and find another solution at quarterback if I've got enough draft capital. I've actually kind of done both already. But so it's a little bit immaterial because this is when you need a quarterback in Superflex, you do draft for need. So if he's in the top 4, you have permission to take him anywhere except 101, in my opinion. So I think it's fine to rank him at 2. But the reason for my ranking is upside. And who are the difference makers in fantasy football? It's the awesome running backs are the biggest difference makers. The rushing quarterbacks and the target dominating wide receivers and the target dominating tight ends. So, taking shots on guys that have a better shot at being a difference maker is sort of the argument, I guess, against aiming for upside. And Mendoza's kind of lacking that from a profile standpoint.
Yeah, totally. And I will say it right here at 102, and I will say it for almost every single pick until we get into the 3rd round. I would trade any one of these single picks for the replacement of this pick in any draft in the future. Like the 27 102, the 28 102, the 29 102. If I knew I could just get a new 102, I'd take it. And I would do that for the 103 and the 104 and the 105 and the 106 and the 107. In other words, all these picks suck. And I mean that in a historical value sense. And I think that that's probably true about Fernando Mendoza. I mean, I think if you just throw this class with all the information about these prospects that we have into another class, they would go way, way lower. You know, like just put Fernando Mendoza in last year's class. He's no, it just doesn't go any, you know, I mean, him or Dart, give me Dart, you know,
not a conversation. It's Dart. Yeah.
you know what I mean? It's like, it's just Dart. I mean, so, you know, that's a 1-2 turn pick. I mean, even Cam Ward, we were kind of like, should we even been doing this? And a lot of times he'd slip past, you know. So anyway, my point being here is I think that what Joe said is correct about this class. And then on top of it, you also have the trade out. And he said it early on in his soliloquy, which was maybe I'd find another solution if I absolutely needed a quarterback. And, you know, I just played a little bit of, well, you guys know I play the game Draft Board Parkour. Copyright Mad Jester. I can't steal anything from him. Everything is stolen. But Draft Board Parkour, I went from the 103 to the 105. If I'm at the 102, I'm moving to the 103.45. If I can move to the 103, then the 104, then the 105, that's great. Then I'll just pick up a second round pick, a second round pick, and a second round pick every time I move back a slot. That's fantastic. And then I'll pick at the 105. And as you guys know, he might be there. He might be there because we've seen some drafts where it's not him going at the 102. And so, if, you know, so unless you need a quarterback, but I guess what? If you went from the 102 to the 105 and you end up getting whoever is there and you have 3 second-round picks, you can go get a pretty good little quarterback with those 3 second-round picks. So you get my point. I think the value play is definitely not necessarily to be eager to press the button for Fernando Mendoza at the 102, but rather extract the value of the 102 and figure out a different solution. That's just me personally. I don't hate him as a prospect, but that's just where I'm at.
I think in some drafts you might not be able to trade back too, right? So, I mean, sometimes you're kind of hamstrung. We're kind of finding that we were talking about in some of our drafts too. We're sitting in, and it's a later in the draft than the 102, and we're sitting there and we're like, what do we do here if there's no opportunity to move out? So, Joe, you mentioned target hog wide receivers.
I'll say this though, real quick, because this has actually just happened to me. I was at the 103. It went Love and Mendoza, and I personally, and we'll get into this right now. This is another topic. We'll get to it in a moment. Is I'm pretty. I'll take any one of these 3 wide receivers, especially because I'm a portfolio player. I have 20 some odd leagues. Right. I'd love to pick the 105 every time if I'm the 103.45 and then take whatever profit I can get. So anyway, I put that out there. I want to make the trade back or out or whatever. And I get some offers and they're shitty and whatever. So I really just kind of target this guy at the 105 because I'm like, I think he's the only guy that really wants to even engage. And then I can move back the 2 spots and go from there. And he's like, yeah, man, I just rather, he kind of says what I said. I'd rather just stay at the 105 and pick and take whatever's left. I said, fair enough. I said, I agree. It's definitely a tier, bro. This was me texting, right? I said, but this is important. I said, I know it's a tier, so I'm not looking for a big profit here. I said, but if you have a preference, I'll let you take the guy you want at a cheap price if you want to do something. He goes, send me something. So I just sent him the 103 and the 105 swap, and I got a second round pick next year or whatever. It's like,
oh, even better.
I was like,
yeah,
fine.
Getting a second round pick on top of that is amazing.
But it's an easy one for him too. He's like, yeah, whatever. It's like so my point is you can just get something small. You don't have to like, if it doesn't matter to you, you don't have to also charge very much. You know what I mean? You can charge light and maybe just be like, no, that's fine. Good enough. And I still
think I think even that's an overpay probably to move up 2 spots, but yeah. So Joe, you mentioned wide receiver target hogs, and I'm curious to see who you think is your top wide receiver target hog, because I don't know if I see one in these 3 guys just yet. There's paths, there's avenues, but the one for me would be Carnell Tate, and I don't know if that's the one for you guys.
No, it's not, but I'd say from here on out, I'm going to be pretty malleable, and I'm ready for my mind to be changed. I had a draft that started on Saturday after the NFL draft concluded, and I had the number 2 pick. Obviously, Love goes first. I don't need a quarterback. And so I had to sit there for a long time. I took there was no clock. I took basically until, I don't know, 3 a.m. that night when I was, tending to my 9-month-old. That I was like, all right,
coin in the air.
Yeah. No, the coin was in the air for a long time.
Yeah.
And, pre-draft, it was Mekhi Lemon, no question for me.
Yeah.
Landing spot has to be taken into consideration. I ended up taking Lemon, but I didn't feel great about it.
Well, I'm going to tell you why. Okay, go ahead.
Let me just sort of finish my point.
Yes,
yeah,
sir.
it's the reason why for me is because he landed in Philadelphia, and I'm not so much worried about target competition because we think AJ Brown's going to be gone. But, Jalen Hurts just doesn't throw over the middle of the field that much. So I think that's what they're trying to correct with Lemon. But I'd really wish that my number 2 overall pick wasn't an experiment to fix something that's wrong with the quarterback.
Right.
Which is like what it kind of feels like it is, which is why I don't feel great about it. I do believe in the player. I do believe in the profile. And why I ultimately landed on him at number 2 is because we're thinking long term. And I think long term, even if it takes him a season, I think this dude is going to be a target hog. They just need to sort of, manufacture and build that stuff for him over the course of his rookie year. So that's why I landed there. But you tell me why, Jax.
No, you're right about that. What I'm saying though, I think that the way that we should play it as we talk this out, because we get to do this actually in front of the audience, right, in this, in this space, is that I think almost all the time Carnell Tate is going to go first.
Mm-hmm.
So I think if you're going to be at the 102, 103, if you're going to pick there, you have to pick Carnell Tate a few times here. And if you don't want Carnell Tate, you have to find a way to trade back.
I completely agree. There was another league where I got Lemon at the 105, and I was thrilled about it. It felt so much better, a million times better, right?
Right.
So I think you're right in that, like, we being in multiple leagues are going to have to diversify with these picks. So, like, I'm kind of prioritizing getting my hands on some Tate and some Tyson. Yeah, but
because here's the thing: we don't not like Tate.
Yeah.
No, correct.
Right.
Yeah.
But in order to get whatever you want of those three, let's say 33% of all of them. Obviously, you're not going to actually get 33% in your portfolio. But my point is, 3 of each. The way that you're going to have to do it is to actually take Tate there, because you're not going to be able to trade back and get him generally.
That's right.
So it's going to be you have to be like, okay, this is going to be a Tate team. I have to, you know what I mean? Unless I can trade back, and then if he falls to me, also great, but going to be more rare. More often, you're going to get Tyson Lemon in those trade backs to the 105, and maybe Mendoza. But I think Tate's gone almost every time in the first 4.
For sure. And Keegan was telling us about a draft that he was in today where Mendoza went at the 106 with Price going ahead, which is bananas. So,
it is bananas. Yeah.
You guys both have Mekhi Lemon as your number 2. And I actually have Tate as my wide receiver 1, but he's my 3rd ranked player because I have Mendoza. And the differentiator for me, guys, is just where we talked about the main knock for Tate was that his archetype may or may not get peppered with targets, right? There is higher danger for him not to get peppered with targets as that outside X. And I think he went to a landing spot where they have no choice but to pepper him with targets, right? And so that's for me the differentiator with him, where those other teams, Tyson has Olave, Lemon has Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert, and somebody else we're going to talk about a little bit later. So I think the competition's part of it. And then the offense, I wrote a little bit about the Lemon pick in that piece on the site as well, if you want to go read it. But I think it's such a weird spot in the draft because you get there, like you said, Joe, and none of them really feel great. Like Carnell Tate, if you don't need the quarterback, Carnell Tate at 102 feels a little bit rich. Yeah.
I'm glad you said that, Trav, because that was actually one of the thoughts that passed through my mind, which is the argument we made against Tate was that he could get pigeonholed into some role as a sacrificial X that serves a really great real life purpose, but he's not going to get fantasy points. And that's not where we think we find him in Tennessee, where he's going to have to be one of the target earners and he's going to have to be part of that offense. So he landed about as well as he could. So that was actually the thing that really held me up. I thought the pick should be Tate, but my priors were Lemon. Our model, spoiler, says Lemon.
Yeah.
And so I just, I was weighing those two things in my head. And so that's why I ended up with Tate, pretty firmly at 3rd.
You know what though? Our model kind of says that, but it also kind of doesn't.
It's close. It's close.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's like, that's a range that we think is very, similar, so I would say that it doesn't love either player, it's
they're in
like,
the same, they're in the same bucket of
they're in the same
players.
Bucket.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And so that's why I think we do need to diversify. I think that's probably the right answer. I think the way that you do that is what I just said. Now, for those playing in one league, well, we're probably not the show for you. No, I'm only teasing.
I'm taking Carnell Tate in that situation because of the targets. Yeah, but it's interesting, Joe, Jax, because I said something.
I have a philosophical question I want to ask you. Right? So
philosophical Joe.
For our rankings, right? What is the right thing to do? And this is how I want the listener to think about this stuff when they're looking at rankings. What is the right thing to do? Should I put Tate there because I think you get Lemon later? Or should I tell you what I believe as a player, right? That's the age-old question.
I think we rank for production, not for game theory. You know what I mean? So that's how I think of it, is I'm kind of ranking thinking about the production outlook in year one and then in like the 3 to 5. I don't necessarily factor in kind of the value on trading back or within the tier as much. I'm just doing it more so like the tier is as it states.
Yeah, I think that's right. And I think that the answer to your question, and to sum it all up, is the whole ecosystem is the answer. It's not, oh, look at the rankings and just fucking draft off the rankings.
Yes.
Because that's not the answer. The answer is what we just talked about right here, which is that they're very close. Make up your own mind, have your own take. And, of course, rankings are stupid, tiers are better, but tiers are boring, rankings are fun. So, of course, we're going to do rankings. But this conversation is more valuable. And hopefully, if you're paying attention to everything we're doing, this show is also something you're paying attention to. This is also the way you're thinking about attacking your drafts as well.
And something I said to you, I think it was on the Friday night live stream for the draft after the OTC drafter party. Shout out to Curdy doing good work on the YouTube channel as well. We had those 2 live shows. They did great and we had a good time. And I mentioned to you, Jax, and I think we all believe this about these top 3 wide receivers. Wide receiver is the position where you're supposed to believe in the talent, right? And I said to you, Jax, I remember when we used to believe in wide receiver talent. You know what I mean? Yeah. And I think it's okay to do that in this situation, right? Like Lemon's situation doesn't look that great, but if you read my piece, I think the Eagles could be a little bit more pass heavy. Or if you've listened to the past probably 6 of these shows where I've been talking about the Eagles probably way too much, but one thing with these wide receivers that I am noticing in our rankings, to bring us back on the rails, fella, is that we all are in lockstep with Jordan Tyson as number 5 and the wide receiver 3 behind those other 2. So, Joe, I wonder if you want to talk about maybe what your differentiating factors were between Tyson being behind those guys. You guys have him with Mendoza ahead, and of course, I have,
Well, this one's a complicated one to talk about as well, because just like it didn't feel great putting Lemon at 2, it doesn't feel great putting Tyson at 5 or third of these guys, because he can.
Yes.
There's a world where he can be better, but I think we've talked about this enough on previous shows.
Yeah.
I think this dude's going to be a target earner. I think he proved that in college. I think what he's lacking is yak and missed tackles force. I think he just goes down too easily. So like it's access to upside from ball in his hands type of scoring that forced me kind of down here. But I mean, he could end up just earning so many targets that it doesn't matter and just being that awesome. He is, of the 3, I think he's actually probably got like, you can make a case he's got the most superstar potential, especially with what he can do with the ball in the air and how he goes up and gets it and all of that. But you could also make a case that he's got kind of the lowest floor. And so when you've got that big of a range of outcomes and no certainty, you kind of push him down, right? So it's like we acknowledge the upside case while also acknowledging the floor case, which is, I don't know, this comp popped in my head and I didn't look at them physically or anything yet, but I was thinking like, could he be like, I don't know, Michael Crabtree or something? Like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, that comp popped in my head. So I don't even really like saying it, but I don't want to put that idea in other people's heads, but it just came in my stupid mind and I can't get it out of it.
Yeah. I mean, he's a tough eval for us because, the model doesn't love him. But so I sort of have the anatomy, and the anatomy does love him. So, because he only misses on a couple of things in the anatomy, but, his score, it tends to be a slight bit lower and actually a bit surprising. You'll have to check it out to see where he lands historically, who some of his comps are. But look, we're beating a dead horse. I still think we're taking Tyson at 5 if he's there. And I would just say again, even when I had Lemon at 105 and I was there, I still consider trading that pick. Like, I am open to trading all picks, even when I'm getting a player like Lemon, at 105, or I have him at 102. I don't really want to draft him at 102, but you know what I mean? But I'm happy to draft him at 105. But even at 105, I'm still considering trading these picks away because of the just abhorrent value of all these players in this draft.
One thing I've noticed too in some of these trade talks is it's more beneficial to be adding players onto these picks as far as the trade backs, because people aren't really they're not seeing the value in moving up with picks. You got to add like a player tier down or something. Like, I got a trade done today. I had the 108 and somebody offered me something for Josh Downs in the 108. I countered a little bit. I ended up coming out with Bashal Tutin and a 27 second for the 108 and Josh Downs. Shout out to Derek. I mean, it was a good trade, filled some needs for us. He ended up taking Kenyon Sadiq. We start 2 tight ends in that league, so it fills his need. And then I was able to push that 108 out, like you're saying, Jax, by just reorganizing the veterans around it. So that might be something you have to add to these trades too, because picks might not just be doing it. Like, don't offer me a 2026 third to move up from 8 to 6 or something, because I'm not doing that.
I did trade the 107 right in front of you for a future 27 first, so I'm sure that stung just a little bit.
But I think the Bashal hit makes that trade like a Bashal hitting makes that amazing for me.
I'm just playing.
And my only running back in that league was Quinshon Judkins. My next one was Brian Robinson, boys. So give me all that Bashal. Give me all of that Bashal Tutin. But we're actually at 106 in our rankings.
Speaking of running
Joe,
back,
and you're the one who doesn't have Jadarian Price as the 106. You got him as your 108. I think this is pretty clear for me, to be honest, with him at the 106, but I'm open to counters, Joe.
Well, this is one I'm probably ready to capitulate on without much argument. The more I've thought about it, the more I spent all offseason saying none of these guys are worth a first round pick aside from Love, right? None of these running backs are worth a first round pick. So I think I was having a hard time getting over the fact that, if a guy's drafted in the first round of the NFL draft, they necessarily have to be ranked higher. They have to be a first round pick in your dynasty draft, right? Especially at the running back position. So I'm ready to capitulate on this one. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that right now. No.
But you know what though, Joe? Don't even do that, because I will tell you right now that the counter thought is that, and I had Jacob Sanderson on Undrafted, and we talked about this, and I basically was like, well, at least if you draft, Jadarian Price at the 106, he'll be sort of, he'll hold value, because, but, and he was like, will he? And he kind of had the counterpoint of, look, what if he's not on the field in third down and George Halani's out there, and it's like Emmanuel Wilson is kind of stealing some first down and he's only getting like 10, 12. I mean, who knows here? We don't know exactly how this is going to all play out. And he goes, if that doesn't happen, because here's the thing about him, and he sort of pointed to the Caleb Johnson stuff, and once a guy is dead, we just give up on him. So if he's not ripping it and playing on pass downs and being their number one, then it's you start to give up on him right away. I was like, that makes a lot of sense. I'm not so sure how much value he holds if it gets a little squirrely in the first month or so of the season, whereas a guy like Jeremiah Love, get as squirrely as you want. I'm holding strong. He's awesome. You know what I mean? In other words, I think there could be some give up on this dude.
He's a guy where you could very easily just resign to the fact that the guys who told you he sucks were right. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
You would be easier time coming over to that with him.
Exactly.
Because that was a big hive. That was a really big hive.
Yes, right? So this is why I'm having trouble with it and totally ready to capitulate on it. And it's because of this tier. In this tier, I had Concepcion, Cooper, Price. And I think that that's probably the right 3 players. Other people are going to have Sadiq in there. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But I think what I'm really saying is Concepcion in that landing spot with the team that drafted another wide receiver, a few picks later.
Yeah.
With the receivers that are already on that team and a target hog at tight end with a quarterback we don't trust, can't really be the number 6. As
Right.
much as I liked him pre-draft, if you were
Yeah.
just making bets based on draft capital, landing spot, everything like that, and that's not, we are looking at talent. We do care about talent, but I can't have Concepcion there over a first round running back. First round running backs are historically such good bets.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of where I'm landing. So I'm ready to move Concepcion below price. I think I need to move price up, but what that probably means
is trade your ass out of the 106, just like I said.
Well, I was gonna say, or hashtag Jax was right, and we got to move Cooper up to the 106. But you guys talk to me about that.
Well, I'll tell you. I have them the lowest. You guys go. You go ahead, Jax.
No. I had that conversation with. You're gonna love this because you haven't heard the show yet. I had the conversation with Jacob, and I was like, dude, am I the only one here who actually likes this landing spot for Omar Cooper? I'm like, nobody thinks that really any of these guys are number ones. Like even any of them. Like Tyson is playing behind Olave. Nobody's like, oh, he's better than Olave. Makai's like, they're like, oh, the cool slot guy that's going to earn targets. I guess Carnell Tate to some degree is now the 101, the wide receiver one on his team, but we've comped him to T. Higgins and players that are basically Robins to other Batman. So even all the way up there, not really alphas. So I was like, what's wrong with playing alongside Garrett Wilson? And he said, well, you've got Garrett Wilson. They just drafted the tight end who's going to take targets, and Breece Hall. And I said, and he said, in order for you to be that high on Omar Cooper, you have to necessarily be down on one of the other targets like Sadiq. And I was like, that's actually correct. Right. So that does actually get into the, thing, because I don't think Sadiq's going to be there. Like Sadiq was 19% target rate in college. That was his best. That was his career. Like he's basically a 19% target rate guy. You're telling me he's all of a sudden going to be a 25% target rate guy in the NFL? That doesn't necessarily track for me. I think you would comfortably, even if at the best, projection would be like 15 to 17%. Obviously, Garrett Wilson is 25 to 30 is a stud. I get that. But then there's plenty to go around. If you say that, okay, Breece Hall is 15 and Kenyon Sadiq's 25 and Garrett Wilson's 30, you're right. You do get into a touch squeeze where all of a sudden Omar Cooper has a tough time, especially with Adonai Mitchell on the team. But when you start to say, okay, well, we don't love Adonai Mitchell. I actually was pretty impressed with him. He did some good things, but
he did some good things.
He did some good things, right? But we don't love him, and we don't really think Kenyon Sadiq is ready for prime time out the gate. And Omar Cooper is kind of a ready to go. And Geno Smith could be not good, but good for fantasy, so to speak. Like serviceable, right? And then they get, Arch Manning next year because they have a treasure trove of picks or whatever, Dante Moore, whomever. It could all get better. So I kind of did make that point, and I thought you'd find it interesting that we have to be down on Sadiq in order to be up on Cooper, which we are.
For sure. And I actually am opposite, not in ranking, but I still have Sadiq up there. And that's why I have Omar Cooper at 10.
There you go.
I actually do have Sadiq at 8 because I think Sadiq is going to come in and produce. I think that pick, I think Geno Smith, I know he's kind of raw, but I think if this guy's just running seams with Garrett Wilson on the outside, I think he's going to be fine. And I don't think as a tight end, he needs 25% targets to be a dope tight end.
Agreed.
So that's more speaking to his upside, right? Because he could get 19. That doesn't speak to Omar Cooper as much. So he could get 19% targets and be dope. But I'm thinking like, if we're, doing our shitty dumb math and we've got like say 18% for Sadiq, 15 for Breece, that's 33. We've got 25 for Garrett Wilson. So we're looking at almost 60% there.
Yeah.
60, a little bit over. And no, sorry, about 60%. And so do we think Omar Cooper is going to come in here and get 20 on top of that? I don't know if that's necessarily going to happen. And I think for me, it's more so about the road being longer now for Omar Cooper and having who I think is an elite wide receiver in Garrett Wilson ahead of him and a producer in Sadiq, I guess, ahead of him as well. So that's kind of the stance for me, is I think he has that top dog wide receiver to contend with. And I think a guy like Casey Concepcion does not have that at all. And so I think even these guys are both in shitty offenses. Casey Concepcion looks like he is going to have a faster track to getting targets. That's why I have to have Casey as my number 7, because I think he is a major difference maker. Not that I don't think Omar Cooper is, but I think the type of difference maker that Concepcion is, he can be very friendly for that.
You might as well just move him up to wide receiver 5 then, man. Just move him all the way up. Like, pick 5. Like, move him up to 106 or 105 because if you really think Casey Concepcion is that good, then let me tell you, in 3 years you're going to want him over Jadarian Price. That much I can tell you.
But we had him there most of the process, right?
Yeah.
Like he was my wide receiver 4, right? And for me, the fact that Price actually landed in Seattle, and you guys know I like the talent of Price a little bit more than you guys. That's what sticks him at the 6, right? So I think that's the difference for me. If I had your view on Price, I definitely would have Casey Concepcion up at 6.
Trav likes everybody. That's the problem. He's just
no.
positive. I'm just joking with you, buddy.
No,
I don't.
No, not don't say it.
The issue with Kevin Concepcion is also that, you said he doesn't have a awesome targeter or receiver in front of him, but where does he catch his passes, and where does the best pass catcher on that team currently catch their passes? It's kind of.
I wonder if Concepcion's going to have something to say about that. It's a different coaching staff. It's a different coaching staff than last year. Kevin Stefanski and Todd Monken are different coaching staffs. Monken does use the tight end, but he uses his wide receivers.
Yeah, he could be like the Zay Flowers in the offense, right? Obviously, the quarterback situation is quite different, but he can be the Zay Flowers, and there's room for I don't know.
I think banking 100% on the fan and roll carrying over and progressing is a little bit sketchy. I love him, and I hope it happens, but I just am not 100% certain that it is going to happen.
Yeah, that target earning is pretty real. I feel like is the thing.
For sure, but it doesn't have to always necessarily carry over. You know what I mean? Especially quarterback to quarterback, offense to offense. You know what I mean? What if Todd Monken comes and puts him in way different situations, right?
Yeah. All right. So I don't really feel any better about this tier, guys. I
just sorry.
No, it's not great.
That's like as we go through the whole thing, right? And like I think
great.
Why don't we talk about the quarterbacks, guys? Ty Simpson, obviously surprise draft pick. Yeah, let's get.
For the record, I'm going back to where I was.
Yeah, fair enough.
It's super hard. It's super hard, and I would say there's definitely some. Yeah. Again, this is one of those situations where, I know I'm a broken record, but trading back in the tiers. So I think that when you have a hard time between, and you could even throw Ty Simpson in there because I actually traded out of that pick thinking it was going to be Casey Concepcion or whoever, Sadiq, and the person traded into that, whatever it was, 106, 107 for Ty Simpson. And so that, okay, great. It is a 3-quarterback league, so to speak. It's a 10 team, but whatever. Point of the matter is, quarterbacks are valuable, but he moved up for the quarterback. And so this, I think that's the tiers, Ty Simpson, Sadiq, Cooper and Concepcion, and then I certainly want Stowers to be in there with Sadiq, but I also passed on Stowers as well because I had the opportunity to get him. So I'm sort of the opinion here that it's like, I'm not married to any of these guys, and I'm willing to give up a pick in these areas to either trade back or trade out, which I've so far been able to do pretty regularly. I'm going to be on the clock again. I have one league where I've got the 7, 8, and 9. I've got all 3 of these ugly ass picks, and I don't know. Maybe I'm going to be forced to pick, and I'll take all 3 of them. Maybe that's okay. I don't know. But there's a lot of different ways that it's going to play out for you guys, listeners, where I think you have to just really. The most important thing, and I'll say this over and over like a broken record, the most important thing is to suss out all options, because you might find an option that's like, wow, I didn't think this would work. And I think I said it, 28 first. Like, if you can just sell one of these late first for a 28 naked first, I'm saying, roger that. Sign me up.
Yeah, guys, Ty Simpson, such an interesting case, right? Like, I think him even being like in the first 12 of our rankings feels a little bit dirty because there's so much uncertainty around him. I have him at 11. You guys have him at 9. I think that's only position scarcity and value, boys, right? Or is there anything that you're seeing where there's some value in having Ty Simpson on your roster?
I think the nice thing about Ty Simpson is he's not starting this year. So I don't think he's going to decrease in value. There will be a bigger crop of quarterbacks coming into the league next year, but I think he's going to hold his value pretty well. And, maybe the play is after that crop of quarterbacks is extinguished next year, you trade somebody Ty Simpson for like the 109 again, right? It's a reroll, but I think that's like kind of your worst case scenario with him. So he is just a store of value. I don't think we're going to see him much. If we see him much, something's gone terribly wrong with the Rams. Maybe he's good. We've been so wrong about this so many times with quarterbacks, right? Like he was just drafted at draft capital where we've seen guys be awesome. We've seen guys be terrible, but the last few times they've been pretty good in this range. So we didn't like him throughout the process. We didn't believe he was a first round pick, but not only was he a first round pick, he was the first half of the first round pick. And a contingency plan by a sharp team that's, going to give him the time to develop. And that's probably all good for him. So store of value and more value. I can make a case he should go higher, but I don't need to because I like these other guys better.
Yeah, I'm with you. I have, when I look at my rankings, I have the Jeremiah Love in his own tier, then the Mekhi Lemon, Tate, Mendoza, Tyson tier, and then I have the Price, Concepcion, Cooper tier. And then I look at my next tier, and it's got the 2 tight ends, Ty Simpson, and at the back side of that tier is like Denzel Boston. And it's like, do I really?
That's what my tier is made of too, but it's Simpson, Boston, Stowers, Sadiq.
Yeah. It's just interesting. Like, that I don't want to take any of those guys, but I'd love to take like if I have one pick in there, I'd like to trade on back to the 12. Like that's where I feel like, I don't know, I'll split that tier any which way. And if you just end up with one of them, it's fine. I mean, if you have a glaring need at one position or another, but here's the thing with Ty Simpson, he doesn't fill a need. He doesn't fill your quarterback need. So it's like, that's the other thing with Ty Simpson. It's like, I don't really want to make that pick. I think that's where value-wise he kind of needs to go, but I'm not excited to pick him because I don't think he's going to play, and then I just have to sit on him for a year, and then I don't know, man. Like, that doesn't sound fun. I'd rather just have a future first because then I'm at least guaranteed it's going to be worth a first. With Ty Simpson, it's like, well, geez, I don't even know if it's going to be worth a first, and he's not going to play, so I don't know. It's just that whole – and even Stowers and Sadiq, as much as I love Stowers, and I do have him ahead of Sadiq by one spot, it's a gnarly little spot he landed in too, where you've got a slot maven like Mekhi Lemon coming on the team, drafted earlier, as well as a tight end who, say what you want about him being starched in a bar without even fucking putting up any resistance. Dallas Goedert is a pretty sturdy tight end, even though he's not a very sturdy bar stool.
Jesus.
Hold on. I want to talk about the Simpson thing.
I'm still in on Simpson too, Joe. I'm still in on Simpson.
I want to talk about the Simpson thing. This actually came up in our group chat with Keegan, where he was talking about how he had the 109 and the 111 and just didn't want the picks. And I was like, what if you trade the 111 to try and go get Stafford? And then you use the 109 on Simpson. So then you've got, help this year and, future plan, right?
Yeah.
Like contingency plan.
There we go.
And succession plan in place. So, and that really got me thinking about like, do you want to manufacture a trade for Stafford in order to justify the Simpson pick, right? You're manufacturing a solution to a problem that you don't have, right?
Yeah.
And I'm looking at some leagues, and there are actually some where it's probably going to make sense for me to try to do that. So I'm gonna experiment with it, report back. But that's
why we love you, Joe. That's really smart.
So I've got Simpson at 11, boys. I've got Simpson at 11, and I might be more inclined, maybe not at this spot, but I might be more excited to draft the guy who I have right after him, and that is Carson Beck. Carson Beck. I think Carson Beck starts games for the Arizona Cardinals in year one.
You got Beck in round 1?
Well, I've got him as the 12. I think if you've got Ty Simpson there, I think Carson Beck getting starts in year 1 has that type of value. And if we're talking about these position players that we're so uncertain in, you have Beck at 24, Joe. That is bananas. And Jax has him at 14. I think for a quarterback who is going to be starting in year 1, I think of the Tyler Shuck case, right? Like, I don't want to miss on that Tyler Shuck case, especially in a bad draft class where it's not like you're taking Carson Beck over can't miss prospects. Right. I definitely wouldn't be doing that. I think it's more of an indictment on the draft class where Carson Beck is, but I think he got a much better landing spot than we thought. Jax, you were a little bit bullish going into the process, and I just think Carson Beck has a lot of avenues to increase in value after this season. If he, you know, finishes the season starting and goes into the next year as a, you know, competition starter or something like that, I think you might be able to get like a second plus out of Carson Beck if people think that he has a shot to start and believe in him. So that's where I'm sitting on Carson Beck. And I think I'd almost rather take him than a guy who could sit for 2 years. You know what I mean?
Well, Carson
And
Beck
might not have Sean McVay by the time he starts is a big factor for Ty Simpson.
Yeah.
Because Sean McVay throughout that draft process did not seem super stoked about things.
No, I sure did.
And so I almost think that when Stafford goes, McVay is going to be ready to get out of there. So I don't think we can plan for McVay to be there after Stafford leaves.
I will say this: once you get past the 112, and that for me is that Eli Stowers, Kenyon Sadiq, Denzel Boston here, and let's just say that you've got Ty Simpson right there, whatever. Point of the matter is, after that, when you look at ADP, even because that is basically ADP agrees with that. Just so you know, right now it's like Jonah Coleman, Nick Singleton, Chris Bell, Antonio Williams, Jeremy Bernard, Mike Washington, Zach Branch, Elijah Surratt, Katron Allen, like, you know, blah, blah, blah. There's no sure bets there at all. There's not a single player like Chris Bell I like, but like, my God, you know, I mean, you know, Antonio Williams seems like he could be cool. Like I every single last one of them at every position is kind of a question mark, which is why it's like, well, Carson Beck should probably be here. I did coin in the air take him just recently ahead of Nick Singleton and some of these other players because
it was like 205. You said, right?
Something like that. I think that's where it was. Yeah,
I think you have to do that.
That's actually the 13, the 203 because it was a 10 team, so the 15th
right.
pick.
Yeah.
So, but still, point of the matter is there was a couple guys
good.
that had been taken. You know, I think that's right around where you want to take them because none of these other guys, like, I really like Nick Singleton, but he could just be a bum. Like, you know what I mean? He's a 5th round pick who may not. I mean, he just may not be a guy. So it's not like you're taking. You know, think about some of the previous, you know, generations of early second round picks that we've taken where T. Higgins. Yeah, no,
Scatabo.
Luther Burden was, you know, at that spot. You know, I mean, this is like a totally different type of value that we were taking at that. You know, no way am I taking Carson Beck over T. Higgins and, you know, Scatabo and Luther Burden when they were there on the clock. He would have been a, you know, behind in the Shedeur Sanders, Tyler Shuck world, right? You know, late second turn, 2-3 turn in some of these better drafts. So the point of the matter is now that we just don't have any of those sure bets, once you hit the 201, you're kind of on your own, you know, and in the, you know, I think Dukes, who we talked about earlier, said something super smart on Twitter today. He said, you know, someone said something really bad. He goes, your 3rd round picks are just as good as your 2nd round picks anyway, you know, something to that effect, which is basically true because if you take players 13 through 36 and just throw them in I don't fucking know. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
I don't have much, you know, conviction on one over the other. Like, oh no, you're crazy, bro. Jeremy Bernard is way better than Chris Brazel or what? I don't even know. Like, you know, there's no real answer to this quiz. And so therefore, I think that's the reason that Carson Beck is the answer there, if that makes sense.
Why are we crazy, Joe?
Because he was a 3rd round pick. I heard you comparing him to Shuck, and Shuck was, you know, an early pick or the first pick in the 2nd round, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm just trying to think of 3rd round pick.
5th.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of 3rd round pick quarterbacks that have been successful. Yeah, sure.
I'm not tying it all. Like, I'm not saying he's going to be a mega successful quarterback necessarily. I'm saying like he's going to get starts this year. 3rd round draft pick doesn't necessarily matter for me. It's more the path, right? And I'm not looking at the previous 3rd round draft hit rates. I'm looking at him to get some starts this year and increase in value more so, you know?
Joe, yeah, I can also tell you this is a 10-team double super flex, so you can start with the 3 quarterbacks, and I do roster Jacoby Brissett. I mean, so you know
that makes way more sense.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't eager to pick him. I probably was going to go Singleton, or I don't know if Coleman. I think Coleman had just been taken right before me. Actually, it was Coleman and Antonio Williams went, you know, right in front of me. Nonetheless, you get my drift here. It's like, you know, at that point, you're like, okay, I can take one of the tight ends, the Max Clares, Oscar Delp, Eli Raridans. You know, I can take one of these wide receivers. I can take one of these 5th round running backs. You know. Mike Washington. I can just take a straight backup running back. There's nothing like that just stands out where you're like, dude, this guy's going to get targets or something. There's nothing like that. So that's why I think that I think actually Jonah Coleman probably, if you in a vacuum, I think is the player I like the most, because Dobbins is forever hurt. And you guys heard, my favorite guy, RJ Harvey. I was telling you guys there's definitely some issues with him. And I think that the coaching staff has issues with him. And I think that's why they drafted Jonah Coleman, to sort of be that, pass block, can do everything goal line. And he's J.K. Dobbins' insurance. So I really like Jonah Coleman and his upside going forward, even as soon as this year.
Yeah, I think, that's where I've got who I've got at the top of the second round. And just to be clear, I've got Carson Beck at 24. So I've got him as a second round value. And we just talked about how malleable all of these picks are. So
right.
Yeah, it's case specific. If you need a quarterback and you need to take a YOLO shot on somebody who probably isn't good, but it's worth the gamble, I get it. Yeah. I've got Jonah Coleman pretty clearly as the next RB, both from a NFL draft capital standpoint. This is basically where I had him in my rankings. I moved some other stuff around, obviously, because I had Emmett Johnson as my pre-draft number 2. His landing spot and his draft capital don't really dictate that, although I think I'm still too low on him and I want to move him back up. But as far as Jonah Coleman is concerned, I compared him to, I think I called him not exciting Cam Scatterbo, right? Or less exciting Cam Scatterbo.
The irony, by the way, Cam Scatterbo is the exciting one in that pairing.
Yeah. Well, not only that, who do we have right next to Cam Scatterbo in the rankings? And who did I put Scatterbo right in front of in the rankings last year? It was RJ Harvey.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yep.
Yeah. So I think he's just a different element, right? Like Harvey's going to be a big play guy, and maybe, hopefully, that's what he turns into. And he's a pass catcher. Coleman's clearly a pass catcher, but I think he's going to be like the more dependable of the two backs. And not only that, but here's the problem with Harvey is like he was 24 coming in. He's already 25. So this is kind of why we shy away from running backs of a certain age in our rookie drafts, because how quickly their value can fall. They get nuked, and now there's not enough runway for them to, regain the value. So, but Coleman, pass catching, strong running, strong draft capital, and a situation where he's probably going to get some looks. I think it's pretty clearly him.
Yeah.
Next, I had Singleton next. I don't know about you guys.
Yeah,
I have them flipped from you, but I have them at 13 and 14 because I have Beck at 12, and then it goes Singleton and then Jonah Coleman. So pretty much right on.
So I've got Singleton next, and this is just completely an upside shot on what was a Debbie Darling and a 5-star recruit and a freak athlete. So he kind of checks all those boxes. He's got the pass catching, and he had terrible draft, well, not terrible, but pretty bad draft capital. All these guys were 5th round picks basically after Jonah Coleman. But he landed in one of the more enticing spots on an offense with a OC who is not afraid to throw his running back the ball, and also I don't know. I think he saw Singleton as a blue chip prospect still, right? And I'm sure that's how he's looking at him. So I don't know. I see a lot of he's where the most upside and opportunity is, I say, in this section of your draft, probably for the rest of the draft.
You're talking about Singleton? I don't know. You're talking about a head coach that thought Motor was a blue chip prospect there, buddy. I'm kidding.
Yeah, but
just making fun. I'm just making fun of Dable's love for Motor.
Yeah, Motor.
No, I'm with you. I think
Nick Motor available. Let's put him in here. But I think you're right though, Joe. I mean, Singleton doesn't necessarily pose any floor whatsoever. It's an all ceiling pick because literally the floor is he's awful because there's so much criticism from the film community, which is why I thought the Matt Waldman defense of him on my show was so surprising. I just actually expected him to be like, yep, processing sucks and all the rest. He's like, no, he's actually, I was like, okay, I have no idea then. And so I think what that tells me more than anything is just take the swing. In this shitty draft, when you get a chance somewhere in the second round and Nick Singleton's there, the problem is that Nick Singleton has been being steamed there's receipts of him going in the late first, as early as like 1-8, 1-9, 1-10. Like,
ooh,
this is like crazy town. So there's definitely some Devy players playing Dynasty who are only looking at his freshman year and his high school, film. So yeah, I mean, you're going to see, but here's the point too, that you're going to see a lot of variation. And it's one of those things where I swear to God, like Skylar Bell went pretty early. We're maybe going to get there here, but Skylar Bell went pretty early in our draft, the 10-man there. And of course, who took him was a guy who worked on the model the whole damn time. Fuchs, he's like, I ain't letting this guy get past me, So, just when you start to like, holy smokes, this guy's good type of thing. So, I think he went at the 303 or something, but I was hoping he'd get to me at like the 36 or something I'm at or whatever. Yeah. It was like, but the point of the matter is you kind of scout your other league managers and see what they're probable to do, especially if you play in multiple leagues with them. You can kind of get some intel because that's the only thing. The ADP, I think in a lot of cases, you can throw it out.
Right. I want you guys to make the case for your boy Elijah Surratt, because I see that you guys both have him as number 17 overall in Superflex. I have him at 26, and I just think the Jacoby Lane pick, the presence of Zay Flowers and Mark Andrews, the fact that we don't know a whole lot about Declan Doyle means that I'm not so sure that Elijah Surratt comes in and fills a very valuable role here. I think I'm more excited for Jacoby Lane there. I am definitely by my rankings. I think Jacoby Lane is going to be awesome for Lamar Jackson, and that's a really good fit. I'm not so sure Elijah Surratt is. I kind of think we've seen this game play out in Rashad Bateman a little bit.
Can we talk about DeJon Stribling first?
Yeah.
Because
let's talk about them together.
I suppose we can switch that gear.
No, because they're all together.
Well, that is a big tier. Like I've got Stribling actually a fair bit higher than Surratt.
Actually, the question is, Joe, and I'll set you up on a tee. Now we have a bunch of wide receivers, and there's a lot of them. The model doesn't hate a lot of them. The NFL didn't hate a lot of them because they took I don't know about a record, but like 17 in day 1 and 2, which is a lot. I think it was 33 total drafted wide receivers, another huge number. So a ton of wide receivers were drafted, which means that we have a ton of guys to sift through. But we also know for a stone cold fact that we're going to get like 5 good ones out of the whole class.
Yeah.
It's true, man. All these guys, most of them are going to suck. And that means probably both Jacoby Lane and Surratt aren't going to be good. And so I think that will lead to, how do we decipher this class? And maybe it starts with your boy, DeJon Stribling.
I mean, I liked him in the pre-draft process. I had him kind of at the back end of my top 10. He ends up going wide receiver, 6 in the NFL draft, if I'm not mistaken. Top of the second round. I didn't like him that much. But with the draft capital he got, and we're all making fun of the Niners for the pick, but, they, more than any team in the league, draft on traits for their system. Shanahan's have been doing that for a long time. So I think he fits. I think he fits the system. Like the type of player he is, he could be like the Ayuk replacement and, fill that role for them. He's a more experienced receiver. He was a 5th-year receiver, late breakout, late season breakout in his last year, which always makes me a little bit nervous. Is this, what's his name in Green Bay? Why am I blanking? Went to Texas. Come on. Yes. Is this Golden again? We're just like late season in his last year breakout and we're just falling for that. But it's hard to ignore that draft capital on that team with a coach that absolutely sees stuff and will scheme it. So I've got him ranked at 15, and that's not where I expected him to be. I don't feel good about it, but I feel like with his draft capital, it's just like that's where he ended up needing to be. What's weird is I've got Elijah Surratt, and the reason I brought this up is because I've got Elijah Surratt 2 spots lower at 17, and he was a 4th-round pick, if I'm not mistaken. He slipped all the way to the 4th, and that feels incorrect and incongruent. So, Trav, I think you're probably right, but our model liked Surratt so much that I just had this prior sort of going into the draft and hoping that he'd land well. The Raiders passed on him a bunch of times, like we talked about. It'd be perfect if he ended up with this mind meld with Mendoza back on the Raiders, or on the same team, I should say. ends up in Baltimore instead, who doubled down on the wide receiver position. We've seen Baltimore do this before at the tight end position. Obviously, It's a completely different coaching staff, but the guy who was drafted later ended up being the better player. We like Jacoby Lane too, right? The model like Jacoby Lane as well. Like they're in kind of the same bucket of very underrated prospects. So in a year where NFL draft capital was weird, and there's no really discernible sort of tiers is kind of the conversation we're having right now. I'm going to kind of defer to my priors at this stage in the draft and my analysis and what our model says. And keep him kind of in that range because I don't have any conviction in any of the guys that I got below him.
Right.
For sure. I probably should bump him up a little bit from 26. I am in line with you on Stribling, though. I have him at 16 with you at 15, Jax at 23, and I just have Surratt lower. So I could probably see him getting up into like that early 20s potentially.
I should say, though, I just got Surratt in like the mid third round. So I clearly have him higher than the market does and probably should move him down for that reason alone to not lead people astray when they could get him later. This goes back to the conversation we're having earlier. And then, Jacoby Lane, who I have 2 spots after Surratt, I just got him in the 4th round of a draft. That's how crazy this draft is, where I'm just like, really? Like I traded 27 4th to get into 26 4th just to take Jacoby Lane there because all right, now I've got him as a 2nd round pick. And I don't know if that was a good deal or smart or not, but
very smart, I think.
And I had Surratt already, so I was like, okay, perfect. I get both of them. I end up with with one of them. Maybe one usable player, which is probably a win in this draft.
I made that comment and that statement on my show with Jacob. I was like, I think actually the Surratt Jacoby Lane combo pick is a great one because especially if you can get them at value, if you can get 3rd and 4th round value, then dude, a 3rd and a 4th rounder are nothing. They're generally just throw-ins. There's just there's no investment there, and you basically have a 2-way go where it's like, look, one of them is probably good. If they're both good, that's crazy. That's hopefully one of them is good, and if you can just kind of double that bet, I mean, it's more likely that one of them is good. We certainly didn't want them going to the same team because I kind of wanted to draft both of them, but if you get a good enough price, I think you can. I just got Elijah Surratt at pick 21. So, that was 301 and a 10 team, so yeah, a late 2nd is fair enough.
I think what's really throwing me for a loop this year is that normally our model is much more aligned with NFL draft capital. And then, there's 1 or 2 guys who are like, whoa, this guy's way better than the NFL thinks he is. Yes. This year, it's the whole damn draft. It's like, wait a minute, we are something is very different this year.
Yes.
And I'm not entirely sure what to make of that, except for it's a bad draft class and the NFL just started drafting on traits and stopped looking at the underlying analytics, which is something that we're still focused on.
Correct.
Yeah, because I do like a lot of those like 3rd and 4th wide receivers better than some of the guys that went in the 2nd for sure. So I think that's well put. Boys, we got to talk about these 2 tight ends before we ride out here. You guys were loving on these guys, and I think they both got really good landing spots. Those are Eli Raridon to the New England Patriots, Jax. Could that be any better? And then, of course, Oscar Delp goes to the New Orleans Saints. I think these are both great landing spots, guys. When I look at our rankings, consensus, we have Raridon 19 and Delp 21. I have Raridon 20, Delp 21. Jax, you're higher, 18 and 19 respectively, Raridon and Delp. Joe, you've got Delp 2 spots ahead, predictable at 25 and Raridon at 27. So a little bit behind where we have them, Joe.
I'm too low.
But they're going still up. I think they are both close and we're bullish on both of them for sure. I think this is where the conversation that we had before the draft saying that we're going to end up drafting a bunch of these tight ends in like the late 2nd, 3rd round. We're seeing Raridon go at like the top of the 2nd. So we got to be careful with that one, but we're going to be wanting those guys more than some of these wide receivers. And to an extent that is bearing out when we look at the Raridon and the Delp. I think there's a couple other guys we like, but maybe some of these running backs come in between, but talk about the landing spots for your boys, guys.
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing with both of these tight ends or any of these tight ends, I think you're free to fire as early second round, because especially if it's tight end premium scoring, you can't really wait. You can't think, oh, their ADP's down around 3.3. I'm going to get them at the 210 or whatever. It could be well before that. As Joe's now saying, I need to move him up, not because he's like he still thinks they're the same type of player. It's just really hard to figure out the ADP and the rankings with all these wide receivers. It's really hard. And so I think that's the thing. I was listening to the Fantasy Points mock draft, and Rich Rebar was on there. And when he said, oh, I'm going to take my tight end 3 at the 202 of their mock draft, and it was Eli Raritan, I was like, oh, this is really, really cool. Because it's like, I've been saying he's probably the tight end 3. I'm not like over my skis with him, but like I think he's got a pretty clear path. He's a pretty, like I said, good prospect when you look at some of the per route and per catch and all that per target numbers. He's very good. He's got injuries, and as Rich pointed out, it's like they did overlook the injuries because they drafted him in the 3rd round, right? The NFL was like okay with his medicals, so I think it's free to fire. But once you're in that 2nd round, I think you got to be looking at these guys and going from there. And yes, it feels really good to watch the fantasy industry, with the quiet capitulation to Eli Raritan and Oscar Delp, thanks to me and Mr. Quave, Mr. Quave. Joe Quave.
Real quick on Delp.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't be happier with his landing spot, right? He goes to New Orleans where, yeah, sure. Olave's there, and they took a wide receiver at number 8. So that's, some target competition, but how do you offset that? It's with volume. And they're going to run probably more plays than any team in the league this year. The pace that they play at in New Orleans is going to offset that. So I think that's a scenario. We always talk about you want your tight end to be a top 2 target earner on the team. It's probably okay if he's a number 3 target earner, but they're running, 7 more plays than every other team in the league this year. So I'm really comfortable with that. I think that the door's wide open. And if you're a little lower than consensus on Tyson, like we are, it's just like we talked about with, Omar, Cooper, and Sadiq, right? It's like, well, necessarily I've got to be a little higher on Delp than everybody else too. Yeah. But I was already high on him, so that's probably just confirmation bias. I did just so you guys know, I am, because we talked about how we can get Surratt in the 3rd round, we can get Jacoby Lane in the 4th round. I just moved Delp, Raritan, and Beck to the top of my 6th tier ahead of Surratt and Lane and these other guys, just because I think you guys are right. And more importantly, I've seen it in drafts where, those other guys are going to be available later based on draft capital. And I just want to steer people in the right direction. So that's the rationale.
Yep. I think that's right.
Where do you guys have Claire?
He's right there for me. I think that's kind of a funny landing spot with like so many tight ends there, and of course our boy Ferguson there. But yeah, I've got him close. I've got them all back to back. I've got Raritan, Delp, Claire in a tier 18, 19, 20. So back of the 2nd round, but willing to move them up. I guess a lot of times I think Claire has the higher ADP right now, if I'm not mistaken. So I think it's going to be one of those things where you're kind of going to have a harder time getting your hands on Claire, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Max Claire.
That's okay.
Yeah.
Joe, you and I are a little lower on Claire. You got him at 28 and I got him at 31. I'm going to be definitely moving him up. I had that big tier of wide receivers like the Skylar Bell, Chris Brazzell, Zachariah Branch type deals in front of him. But I think with the way tight end is going, and I put a tweet out today that said, with what we saw last year as far as the play calling and personnel trends, and what the NFL just told us in this draft, is we're going to want more team tight end 2s than ever on our fantasy roster. And I think there are a bunch of guys that fit that mold in this, where when we see these teams using more 2 and 3 tight end packages, might not be this year, but fairly soon, they're going to need more bodies to keep running through those. And so these tight ends maybe get more of a shot than we've seen out of previous tight ends coming up who get drafted as the tight end 2 for a team. So I'm actually going to be taking a bunch of shots on these guys through, the 2nd, like you said, 3rd, 4th. If I have any 5th rounds and these guys are there, I'm going to be taking those shots.
Yeah, I would say with Claire, it's possible he's the best tight end on that team. It's also possible he's not, and he still plays a lot.
Exactly. Yeah. Shout out Colby Parkinson.
Yeah. So I think another section that's interesting, and I know, Trav, you were trying to wrap up, and I'm just not going to let
it.
This stuff's too interesting to me. But so, I've got, now after just moving some guys around, Damon Claiborne, Emmett Johnson, Katron Allen, and Eli Heidenreich ranked basically 24 to 28. And, Katron Allen's not a guy I liked pre-draft, but his landing spot is so enticing because there's just not any sort of proven ball runner in front of him. There's obviously White, who's going to catch a lot of passes, but we don't believe that much in Bill yet. So Katron Allen kind of just seems like he's the new Chris Rodriguez in Washington, and is going to get, sort of the I trust you to run the ball well and, keep the train on the tracks role, which is a limited role. And he's, a dude you're going to trade right away, but I think he's going to get, carries this year. And so that's got value, especially in this draft class. Claiborne is also one of the more interesting situations because he's in Minnesota where, Aaron Jones is on his last legs. And Jordan Mason is, basically a Katron Allen, right?
He's a replacement level player.
He's a replacement level player. And, Claiborne's got this speed element that neither of them have anymore, not Aaron Jones anymore. And, some NFL traits that we liked. So I don't know. Claiborne is probably, if any of these guys is going to emerge, he seems like the one that's got the path to serious relevance.
Yeah.
I have him actually behind that fat tier wide receivers I mentioned to you guys there. And I think I'm probably going to move him up because I actually have Heidenreich up at 23, I believe. I think it might be the highest on, I think the path to him behind, especially if Caleb Johnson sucks. Like we kind of hope he doesn't, but he might just suck. I think Eli Heidenreich's got a bunch of versatility that team might not have. And I don't think Jaylen Warren is necessarily this world beater that's going to hold off the entire load. So Heidenreich's pretty intriguing for me. And I think if I have Heidenreich up there, I should probably have Damon Claiborne because I believe in that running game. I'm not necessarily with you on Katron Allen, though. I just don't think the talent's there. I actually think it's going to be more of a Kroski, Merritt, and Rachaad White split. I might have a little bit more belief in Rachaad White than you, though.
I basically have Damon Claiborne in the pretty close to the Nick Singleton, Jonah Coleman tier. So yeah, and I think I think I probably have Emmett Johnson there too. I mean, Emmett Johnson, I think probably is the backup running back in Kansas City.
Yeah.
With the reminder, shall I remind you that Ken Walker is not a pass catcher? Who likes to target running backs out of the backfield? Mahomes. And so if it's not going to be Ken Walker, it's going to be Brashard Smith or Emmett Johnson. One of those two guys is likely going to be on the field catching passes unless they resurrect, some dusty pass catcher that cucks them both. But I'm with you. I've got those three guys. Now, Heidenreich, I don't know, man. Maybe I buried him a little bit. I need to move him up. I'm not even sure. We'll talk about Heidenreich at some other point. I do need to maybe revisit that. But I think Damon Claiborne is exactly that. He could actually be a starting running back, with real purpose toward the end of the season if Aaron Jones gets hurt, which is probable and likely, right? And Mason is, vanilla, right? Is missionary. So, they'll be like, let's get this guy on the field for a few touches. Maybe he pops a few and he could be good. He also could be a bum. That's the thing with these picks is like, there's no certainty with him at all, but I do like the path to touches for Johnson and Claiborne to go kind of with the Jonah Coleman Singleton tier, at least close. Katron, a little bit more of a plotter type, and Mike Washington is a straight handcuff. I'm not too excited about Washington. I think maybe if I'm a Genty, manager, then Washington might have a little bit more appeal to me because the asymmetrical upside is there for me because I'm going to capture it in my dynasty team. I've just got Las Vegas kind of dialed in. But like we say all the time, even though he seems to be the sure handcuff, sometimes we're not sure that they're the real handcuff. Sometimes I think Jacob Sanders said, like, what if they just sign Najee Harris? You're like, oof. That really hurts for Mike Washington as the backup running back in Vegas. You know what I mean? Like, it could be ugly like that for him very quickly.
And that's why I'm probably a little bit lower on some of these guys too, is just that I think with the draft capital they got, these teams aren't so tied to them
They're
that
not.
if they even do start and play well towards the end of the season, if some better guy comes into free agency or they can get a better guy in the draft next year, that guy gets absolutely nuked. And so that's why I'm a little bit more cautious in bringing these guys up that high in my ranking. And I would dispute too in KC that they haven't actually thrown the ball to running backs as much as it may seem they would. I'm going to look at some of the target numbers there as well, but this kind of goes into my yeah, but not necessarily a ton to the running back position.
No, but
so
around the goal line, high value throws to the.
This is maybe just some of my hatred of the Chiefs backfield still shining through, Jax. I'm trying to let that ride on forever. So I'm going to try and find holes to poke.
And it's not like boy, why am I struggling with names so much? Kenneth Walker has been some model of health either, right? So I think Emmett Johnson's path is really just like he's going to be a situational starter for you. So I think that's 100% right. And I just, it's so funny how much I've moved this around. And that's how malleable this is.
It is.
More than ever before. But yeah, I just moved Clay. I think you're right, though, Jax. I think that they do believe in that. They belong in that tier with Coleman and Singleton.
Yeah.
And I've got Striblin in there as well. But yeah,
and I think the thing, like I'm looking at your rankings right now, Trav, and this isn't a pick on them by any stretch, but I will say that I just see too many wide receivers in that area where I don't want to be drafting wide receivers, if that makes sense. It's not to say that you're wrong. Like, I'm not like, oh, I don't like Chris Bell or Ted Hurst or Jeremy Bernard or Jacoby Lane, Skylar Bell, Elijah Surratt, Chris Brazel. It's like they all kind of have some, like, yeah, man, Stribling and Antonio Williams, like, but I'm just not clicking the button on all those wide receivers. I'll take the ones that fall. I'll take some, but I want to take the tight ends and the running backs just because I just don't think these wide receivers are going to hit. I think they're all going to kind of be a bunch of nothing.
I think a couple of them might give us we're talking like wide receiver 3 tops and whatnot. I just think like we're starting to see some of these cases too. Like we were saying similar stuff about Brashard Smith going to the Chiefs last year. And now we're saying that like Damon Claiborne and Emmett Johnson are definitely going to be getting starts for our rosters as rookies. No, I don't think that's going to happen, guys. So I would just be cautioning, against the fact that we're banking on that.
I'm not banking on it. By the way, I'm saying that it's the old Scott Connor thing. Any running back on a 53, it's if they go into the lineup that they become a startable asset. Whereas a lot of these wide receivers will never become a startable asset, even if they're on the field. Many of them, I'm not saying all of them, but that's really it. It's not that I think Damon Claiborne will. It's that if he does, he's immediately a startable flex spot.
Yeah, and not only that, but they're players that we actually believed in at this very thin position this year before the draft, right? So, so
that's right. A little bit, that's right. They're the ones we believed in of the ones, right? That's right.
Yeah.
And they did get drafted. I mean, think about it, only 12 real running backs got drafted in the whole draft. So the NFL basically said, "Yeah, we're not taking any of you bums." And the ones they did take were at least some of the ones we liked. So.
Except Kalen Black. Where do you guys have him?
That was nutty. I don't even want to look.
I'm not going to, but let me see.
30, it feels disrespectful to tell you.
Yeah, I've got him at 39. Right, I've got him at 39.
I got him at 36,
right
Back of the,
womp.
Back of the
I
third
should
round,
say,
fourth round.
What about Jeremy Bernard? Where do you guys have him?
He's so hard for me to rank because like I have him in like the Brazel, kind of Jacoby Lane, Skylar Bell area, but then I look and he was picked 47 in the fucking draft, man.
I know. And the model hates him. It hates him.
Yes. I think I do too.
Not like irredeemably hates him. So I have ranked him a lot higher than
you guys too.
I ranked him accordingly. I didn't like any of he didn't stand out in any way statistically. I thought it was a reach by Pittsburgh, but like he was, as we talked about, just going through the process. He's like the kind of wide receiver that does everything that a coach is going to like. He's going to do it right. He's like a forever wide receiver 3 or 4 on a roster, right? Yeah. So that has real life value, but there's nothing about his profile that says anything about fantasy success or like what you can expect. So I don't know. Might be big wrong on that one, but maybe. I think I'm very comfortable passing on him. I don't even think if it was like end of the third round, I don't think I'd take him.
Yeah, what's interesting about him, Joe and Trav, is that he's going to be taken early second round in most of your drafts when you're not really even considering him. And so at just ADP alone, it's probably not a bet you're going to make, so you don't have to worry about it. Yeah, it's actually harder when it's like end of like where we're seeing Surratt and Jacoby Lane available. You're like, oh well, I would maybe consider Jeremy Bernard here, and that's kind of my point. I think you can just take your wide receiver shots later with whatever of those guys falls to you. You know, if there's a Stribling that you know falls down a little bit, I'll be happy to take them. You know, if it's a whomever, right?
I want your Stribling falling down. Nobody
there was
wants
a joke
Stribling falling down.
Right. Yeah, I know. Yeah, you hate it when your Stribling scribbles out.
Keep your Stribling tucked up there, fella.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yeah,
take care of your DeJohnson.
Yeah. And with that.
I did wait. No, I want to make a point.
No, Joe, we're not doing it again.
I'm sorry. I'm making a point.
God damn it.
You're right, Jax. You're right. Second round, got to just take the running backs because there's so few, and the tight ends. And I think third round, because so many of these guys are in a big bucket, that's where we're going to be getting them. I think the third round is where we focus on wide receivers. We've probably said this before, but we got back here in a very roundabout way.
Yes.
So anyways, with that.
No. We never get to places in a very roundabout way on the Dynasty Underground.
All that matters is we're right.
One more thing, yeah.
All that matters is we're right now. People got their rookie drafts. They've already started. They're going to continue, probably through the next month. Being right now is what this whole process was all about.
Yeah, and if you want to do that, just go check out otcffb.com. We talked about it earlier on the show. We dropped the OTC score. You know it. You love it. It's the same value on the shop that it's always been. But the best value is to go and check out that yearly subscription. We talked about it. We kept it affordable. We want people to check it out. And when you subscribe for that yearly subscription, right in your little profile dashboard, actually, the PDF document of the OTC score that you get for free with that yearly subscription will show up for you. So shout out to the team, man. It's been such a really cool thing to watch everyone band together and create all of this new content around what we're doing. Shout out to everybody who worked on the score. Shout out to Keegan for changing the game for us and bringing us some really, really cool products that we're super proud to share. So hope you all enjoy it. Hope you go check out the site. Make sure you send us that feedback on the site. It means a lot to us as far as how we can improve and make it better for you. And for Jax Falcone, for Joe Kuvetakis, I am Trav. We will see you next week. Peace.